Hello everyone, welcome to our PMP exam question and answer solving session for October. So just like the previous months, in today's session, we'll be solving some medium to high difficulty level PMP exam questions very similar to your actual exam. Also, if you have not watched the previous Q&A sessions, I would highly encourage you to check them out, okay? I am sure that you will find them immensely helpful for your PMP exam. I will link the entire playlist in the description section of this video. Now, if you are preparing for the PMP exam, you can use today's class to assess how well you are prepared for the exam, okay? So, out of the 5 questions that we'll be solving today, the target would be to get all the 5 out of 5 questions correct, okay? However, the minimum expectation is that you should get at least 4 out of the 5 questions correct to consider yourself fairly well prepared for the PMP exam. Now, anything less than that, you might need a bit more preparation, okay? So give this video a like, get a pen and a paper, and let's get started with question number 1.
Okay, so question number 1, guys. Please read the question, read the options, and try to answer it before we solve this together. Right, so let's start. A company is planning to roll out a new software application which leverages the latest innovations in the field. Okay. The project manager has confirmed that all the work packages have been identified along with the resources and associated risks. Okay. So basically all the work packages and the associated work breakdown structure, the WBS dictionary, etc. has been created. Okay. So that can be assumed for this project. Which estimation technique should be used in this scenario to develop an accurate and precise? So 2 very important words to consider in the question stem: develop an accurate and precise cost estimate. Okay, and the 4 options are parametric estimating, analogous estimating, beta estimating, and bottom-up estimating. Okay, now to answer this question correctly, guys, you need to understand the basic definition of these 4 types of estimates and basically where they are used, right? So if you know that, you can answer the question in like 30 seconds. Okay, so now let's talk about these 4 types of estimation techniques in brief. Okay, so parametric estimating is a quantitative technique that relies on historical and statistical relationships to estimate project parameters such as cost, duration, or resource requirements. Okay, this involves using predefined parameters or formulas to calculate estimates. Okay, so a case in point for parametric estimating could be that you might be using a cost per square foot formula to estimate the construction cost of an entire building. Okay, so the value of cost per square foot you can get historically. Okay, and you can use some statistical models to predict that, okay, to what likelihood you can estimate the full and final cost of the building. So these kind of estimates are done in a parametric estimation technique. Let's look at the analogous estimating. So analogous estimating, and this is also known as top-down estimating, is a less detailed estimation technique that uses historical data from similar past projects as a basis of estimating the current project. Okay, this method assumes that the current project will be similar in nature, okay, and complexity as well to previous projects, and therefore extrapolates estimates from those previous project to this current project. Okay, now all this will tell you guys that this analogous estimating is a relatively quick and easy way to produce rough estimates during early stages of project planning when detailed information is limited. Okay, now with these 2 definitions which we learned right now, the parametric estimating and analogous estimating, we can safely eliminate both of them, right? So none of them are fitting this background of the project scenario that has been provided here, and also where the question stem is asking you to develop the estimates as accurately and as precisely as possible based on the work package or the WBSs, right? So option A and B are definitely incorrect. Let's look at option C, which is beta estimating. So beta estimating is also a probabilistic estimation technique that considers the best case, worst case, and the most likely scenarios for various project parameters such as cost or duration. So for example, if you remember the formula of P plus 4M plus O, right? where P is the pessimistic estimate, 4M is the most probable estimate, and O is the optimistic estimate divided by 6, right? So this is the formula of estimation using PERT, which is a program evaluation and review technique, which is a type of beta estimation. You see that in these kind of estimations, you use three types of estimates, which are pessimistic estimates, most probable estimates, and optimistic estimates. Okay, so beta estimating helps project managers understand the variability and risk associated with different project scenarios and allows for the calculation of expected values and confidence intervals. Okay, so this is a far more statistically significant and statistically accurate estimation technique when compared to parametric or analogous estimations. Okay, now mind that the question is asking that you as a project manager need to develop the estimates based on the work packages that has already been created, and you need to develop an accurate and precise cost estimate, right? Very important. And that comes from the bottom up estimating, guys. Okay, because bottom up estimating is a detailed and a very intensive technique that involves estimating the individual components or work packages of a project and then aggregating these estimates to determine the total project cost or duration. And this is as accurate as you can get for a project cost estimation. Now, in bottom up estimating, project managers and team members typically provide inputs and estimates for their specific tasks. And moving on, this can also be used to create an estimate from a program level as well. So you see that these kind of a bottom-up estimation technique moves in form of a pyramid, where at the base of the pyramid you have the work packages and accurate estimations of cost and time for each and every work packages, and you start building one upon the other to arrive at the overall project cost at an aggregate level. However, please note that this bottom-up estimation technique might be more accurate and reliable than any of the other three estimation techniques, which are parametric, analogous, and beta, but this requires a thorough understanding of the project scope and detailed planning. Okay, so the correct answer to this question is option D, which is bottom up estimating.
If you are preparing for your PMP exam, guys, I would suggest that you check out my PMP exam prep courses on Udemy. All the courses are very highly rated among students, and many PMP aspirants like you have passed their PMP exam with the help of these courses. All the links will be provided in the description section of this video. And now let's move on to question number 2.
Okay, so question number 2, guys. This is the question scenario. This is the question stem, and there are 4 options. Please pause the video here. Try to solve the question first before we solve this together. Right, so let's start. You are the project manager for a housing development project where all the stakeholders initially agreed on an 18 months completion. Okay. However, 3 weeks into the project, some of the key stakeholders started to push for a 12-month completion due to some urgent business need. Okay. So from 18-month, the stakeholders have pushed the project to be completed now in 12 months. Okay. Which should not be, okay, very important, which should not be one of your preferred actions from the following. So let's look at the options one by one. Option A, advise the stakeholders on the risk of modifying timelines. Okay, now as a good and a pragmatic project manager, guys, you should always do these kind of activities whenever you are faced with a request of expediting something. So for example, expediting the time or expediting the process of acquiring resources, expediting procurement, etc., etc. Okay, so a good project manager always makes sure that the stakeholders make an informed choice. Okay, and that is what your duty as a project manager is. So this is definitely something which you need to do at this point as a project manager. So option A is incorrect. Let's look at option B, reduce the scope and crash the schedule. Okay, now this is a bit direct, right? So it is saying that, okay, once you have received this request of reducing the timelines from 18 months to 12 months, go back to your team and start cutting scope left and right and crash the project schedule as need be. Now you might say that, okay, crashing the project schedule can improve your chances of delivering the project on time. But I hope you know, guys, that crashing comes with a risk on cost as well, etc., right? So you need to keep those in mind whenever you are applying that method of crashing during a schedule compression scenario. Okay, but anyways, let's hold this option for now. Okay, let's not eliminate it. Let's look at option C. Explore to add more resources in your project team to expedite. Okay, now this is quite nice as well, guys, because it is telling you that explore. Okay, it is not telling you that, okay, go and start hiring tomorrow onwards after the day you have received this kind of a request from your stakeholders. So you are open to explore and see that whether it makes business sense to add more resources in your project at this point in time, and how realistic basically it is to expedite a project from initially 18 months completion to a 12-month completion. So this is definitely that you should be doing as a project manager, where you would be exploring to add more resources if possible to expedite the project. So this is also not the correct answer. Let's look at option D. Negotiate with stakeholders to reduce project requirements. Okay, now this is also a sensible option, guys, because you as a project manager are telling the stakeholders that, look, it is possible for a 12-month completion, but you will not get all the 20 or the 30 items that you are looking for. Okay, maybe you need to agree on 15 or 12 critical scope items which are absolutely necessary for your project, and that is the only thing I can deliver within 12 months if you are looking for a 12-month delivery. Now your stakeholders might surprise you and come back to you and say that, look, we are completely okay to give us this 12 or 15 scope items on the 12-month timeline and deliver the rest, let's say 15 or 10 scope items which are add-ons or which are good to have over the next 6 months. Okay, so that's how you have negotiated and prioritized. Okay, very important. So you are prioritizing the project handover process, where you are negotiating a deal with your project stakeholders to arrive at a win-win situation. So this is also a good negotiation strategy, right, where both the parties come out of the negotiation table as winners, right? So that is why option D is something which I would like to do as a project manager before I go straight ahead and start reducing the scope and crashing the schedule. Okay, which is more of a direct approach as a project manager. So coming back to the question stem, which should not be one of your preferred options from the following? And the answer is option B, that I would not prefer that after whatever has happened here in the project scenario to go back to the drawing board and start cutting the scope and crashing the project schedule drastically without even doing some basic due diligence checks. Okay, so the correct answer to this question is option B. Now, before we close this discussion, guys, note a very important thing here, that if you see the way options A, C, and D are structured, look at these words, right? Advise, explore, negotiate. So what kind of a characteristic of a project manager these kinds of words exhibit, right? It exhibits that as a project manager, you are more pragmatic, more data oriented, and more matured, right? That you are advising your stakeholders, you are exploring opportunities, you are negotiating in a positive way with your stakeholders. And these are the type of behaviors which you need to demonstrate as a project manager, not only when you are solving PMP exam questions, guys, because these are life skills as a project manager, and you need to demonstrate these kind of behaviors in your professional career as well when you are leading projects as project managers in real life. Okay, so anyways, coming back to the question, if you look at option B, it doesn't give you any of these nice verbs, right, which is advise, explore, negotiate, and those kind of stuff, right? It's quite direct, that it's saying that, okay, go and start reducing the scope, start crashing the project schedule, etc., and whatnot. Okay, so according to me, that kind of a response is very impulsive, guys, and should be avoided as a pragmatic and as a matured project manager. So the correct answer is option B.
If you're liking the video, guys, please press the like button. I know you have not done it, so please press the like button. It helps me to understand that you value such educational content and motivates me to prepare more such videos to help you with your PMP exam. And now let's move on to question number 3.
Question number 3, guys. Read the question, pause the video, and try to answer it before we move forward. Okay, so the drill remains the same. Right, so let's start solving the question together. A product owner newly onboarded with an agile team finds it difficult to make the team contribute towards ideas for value creation and benefit realization. Okay, the core strength of the team lies in technical mastery and problem solving. Is this a cause for concern and why? Okay, so this is a very interesting type of question, and these type of questions are called as a 50-50 split questions, okay, where you have 50% of the options taking one school of thought and another 50% of the options taking another school of thought. Okay, now you need not to only identify whether this is a cause of concern or not, whether it's a yes or no. That's the first leg. But the second leg, which you also need to identify as a candidate, is the reasoning behind your rationale. Okay, so no, there is one reasoning provided here. No, another line of reasoning. Yes, one line of reasoning. Yes, another line of reasoning. Okay, so let's try to look at these options and try to solve this one by one. Now here, if you see the scenario, there is a product owner who has recently joined an agile team. Okay, and he or she is finding it difficult to make the team contribute towards ideas for value creation and benefits realization. Okay, now, what this means is that whenever there is some new ideas which are shared regarding the product, some improvement opportunities, some kind of a technique, or let's say some kind of a feature which might improve the benefit of the product in the end for the end users, the product owner is struggling to get engagement from the project team, because the project team is saying that, look, this is not our territory. We can do the coding for you, we can do the network architecture for you, we can do all the detailing in terms of how the application will be functioning, etc., etc. We can troubleshoot any problems for you, but we will not be able to contribute from a value creation and a benefits realization standpoint. Okay, that is your job as a product owner to own and execute. Please don't help us responsible for that. Now, do you think is the right attitude, guys? Okay, in an agile team, because if you know the basic premise of an agile project, you know that agile depends on self-sufficient teams, right, where every team member is a leader in his or her domain, and they contribute cohesively and collaboratively for the entire project coming out as a whole, right? So it is not a project scenario where everyone can work in silo, and once their work is done, it is passed on to another department, then it's passed on to another department, etc., etc. So agile projects doesn't happen like that, and that is why for having agile projects in your organization needs to exhibit that level of project management maturity. Okay, very important. Now, in light of that premise, let's explore the answer options one by one. Option A, no, because it is prescribed to have a team of specialists in agile projects. Incorrect, guys. Okay, because in agile projects you need to have a good mix of specialists and generalists as well. So if you go back to my August 2023 video, you'll be able to see the importance of having T-shaped individuals and I-shaped individuals in a agile project. Okay, so T-shaped individuals have broad range of skills and knowledge and deep expertise in one or more areas. So they will know finance, they will know marketing, they will know, let's say, coding, they will know tech, they will know operations, etc., etc. But maybe they are very good in finance, which is one of the domains. Okay, that is a generalist, and you need such kind of people to sit at the top of your organization to have a bird's eye view of the projects or the programs and the portfolio that the company is running, to make sure that everything that you are doing in a project is having continued business justification. And of course, it's very intuitive that these kind of people collaborate more easily. Next, who are I-shaped individuals? They are such kind of individuals who have deep expertise and mastery in one specific area. Okay, so they bring specialized skill for issue resolution and problem solving and innovation. So these are people like your coders, these are people like your designers, these are people like your electronics and instrumentation engineers, etc., etc. Okay, so they don't know about the business, they don't know about the supply chain, they don't know about procurement, but at least they know their level of knowledge, which is, let's say, for example, how to do coding with impeccable perfection, or how to do a programming of a machine with electronics and instrumentation with zero errors or bugs. Okay, so these kind of thing. So basically, in an agile project, you need a good mix of both of these individuals to have a successful project team. Okay, so go back to my August 2023 video and rewatch this question, where I have discussed in detail the importance of having T-shaped and I-shaped individual in agile projects. Okay, now in context of that, let's come back to this question. Let's look at option B. No, because the team is not expected to contribute beyond their areas of strength. Incorrect. Okay, because I hope you understand that in a agile team, at least everyone should have a specific domain knowledge, but at least he or she cannot shy away from the overall business idea which the project is trying to deliver. So that is not matured enough as a project management behavior that the person would be exhibiting. So that is why this is also incorrect. Let's look at option C. Yes, because lack of diversification will limit the team's ability to adapt to changing circumstances. This looks as a very good option, guys. Okay, so it is saying that yes, this is a cause of concern for you since there is a lack of diversification, because in this agile team, no one is thinking about the business and value creation apart from the product owner. This is a problem for sure. Okay, because it exhibits lack of diversification, and it also exhibits that the team will not be able to compete or not be able to perform when the situation becomes challenging or some big change is coming in the project. Okay, so that is why having a good mix of T-shaped and I-shaped individuals in a agile team is very important. So option C seems like the correct answer to this question, but again, we'll not finalize this now till we have evaluated and rejected option D on solid grounds. Okay, so let's look at option D. Yes, so it is also saying that yes, it is a cause of concern, but let's look at the reasoning of why that it is a concern. Because the product owner is acting outside the defined role description. Incorrect, right? The product owner is nowhere acting outside their defined role description in this scenario. It is completely expected for the product owner not to take decision by himself or herself, but to engage the project team whenever there is some new idea or some new improvement opportunity which will create value for the end product, or which will increase the benefits of the product to the end users or the customers once the product is complete, right? So the product owner is definitely not acting outside their defined role description. So that is why option D is also incorrect. So the correct answer to this question is option C, which is yes, this is a cause of concern for me as a product owner, because all of the team members here in my team are specialists, or let's say I-shaped individuals now, and that will limit my team's ability to adapt to changing circumstances if that comes in the future. Okay, so that is why the correct answer is option C.
Make sure you subscribe to my channel PMP with Ray for more such videos for your PMP exam prep. Okay, your support really helps educational channels like this to grow on YouTube. And now let's move on to question number 4.
Question number 4, guys. Okay, so this is the question scenario. That's the question stem. 4 options A, B, C, and D. The drill remains the same. Please read the question, try to answer it before we solve this together. You can pause the video here if you wish to. Right, so let's start. There is a delay in a project because the completed deliverables does not meet the required quality criteria. The project manager has drafted a change request highlighting the modifications needed. The stakeholders are not satisfied with the change request, which is obviously being filed by the project manager, and want a more detailed analysis of the change with potential impact on cost and time. So the stakeholders are saying that, look, we are not satisfied with the change request that you have filed, and we want a more detailed analysis of whatever changes that you're going to do and what impact it might have on the cost and time of the project. Okay, so what should you do as a project manager first? Okay, so this is very important. The question stem is not asking you that what is the best possible step here. Okay, it is asking you to identify the first line of action after this scenario has taken place. Okay, so if you have taken my 35 PDO Udemy course, you know that we talk in detail about the sequence framework in such kind of a scenario, okay, where there is a particular sequence of thoughts or particular sequence of activities that a project manager needs to do whenever faced with a challenge. Okay, but even if you are not a part of that course, let us do this exercise so that at least you understand what these kind of situations mean to you as a PMP exam candidate and how you can eliminate options very clearly by identifying some clues within the options itself. Okay, so let's look at the options one by one. Option A, review the stakeholder engagement plan and communications management plan. Okay, now in the PMP exam, guys, as a project manager, if you are having a problem which you are planning to solve, always review. Okay, so this is very important. Always review before you act. Okay, always review before act. Do not go into the action phase right at your first step. Okay, whenever you are faced with a problem, hold your ground and do a proper review of the problem first before you decide on any action. Okay, so this is a very important framework that we talk in detail in the 35 PDO course, which is review before act. Okay, so if you look at option A, it's saying that okay, you are faced with a problem here which you need to resolve, and the problem is the stakeholders are not satisfied with your change request. Now what you are doing is you are reviewing the stakeholder engagement plan and communications management plan. Okay, now this might be the correct answer to this question. Okay, so let's hold this option for now. Option B, revise the change request and include all the inputs provided by the stakeholders. This is incorrect. Why? Because it is jumping directly into the action part of the framework. So that is why this is an incorrect option, because you are not reviewing whatever documents and whatever project artifacts you have to make sure that you take an action which is efficient and effective as well. Okay, so you are jumping a step that you are not reviewing and you are going directly into action. So that is why option B is incorrect. Let's look at option C. Review the stakeholder register and arrange a meeting with high impact, high interest stakeholders. Okay, now you can argue that Ray, this is also correct because it's saying review here and it's saying that you review the stakeholder register and arrange a meeting with a high impact, high interest stakeholders. Okay, so let's park this option for now as well. Let's look at option D. Plan a change request review with the project sponsor. This is outright incorrect, right? Because this is escalation. As a good project manager, you shouldn't escalate something to your project sponsor unless absolutely necessary. Okay, so here in this scenario, until and unless you have completed a full evaluation and analysis of the problem first yourself, you should not escalate this to your project sponsor. So option D is definitely incorrect. So we have a tie between option A and option C. Now let's look at option C very closely. Review the stakeholder register and arrange a meeting with high impact, high interest stakeholders. How do you know that this problem, or let's say some of the stakeholders who are not satisfied with the change request, are high impact, high interest? Okay, you don't know that, right? They can be low impact, high interest, or maybe low impact, low interest. You don't have that information to make the decision at this point in time. Okay, so that is totally incorrect. So here, even if in option C, it is asking you to review something before taking an action. So point blank, if you apply this framework, you might say that option C is also incorrect. And that is why whenever you are applying the frameworks, guys, which we learned in the 35 PDO course, I tell you repeatedly that do not apply any framework blindly, but apply the framework in context of the project scenario which has been given to you, right? So here, of course, it is asking you to review, but it is asking you to review an incorrect document first, and also asking you to do something which is not correct logically as well, right? So option C is totally incorrect, and the correct answer to this question is option A, that first, as a project manager, you review the stakeholder engagement plan, and that plan will tell you that how the stakeholders were planned to be engaged whenever there is a change request which has been sent to the stakeholders. And also you review the communication management plan, because that would tell you that what kind of detailing the stakeholders are expecting whenever you are filing a change request in the project. Okay, so these two project artifacts are the correct artifacts that you are referring to, and you are reviewing that before taking an action. Okay, and that is what you should do first as a project manager when you are faced with a problem or a concern. So the correct answer to this question is option A.
I hope you are finding this exercise helpful, right? Remember, the target is to get all the 5 out of 5 questions correct. However, the minimum expectation is to get at least 4 out of the 5 questions correct, okay? So here comes the fifth and the final question.
Okay, so question number 5, guys. This is the question scenario. That's the question stem. 4 options. The drill remains the same. Please read the question and try to answer it before we solve this together. Right, so let's start. A bottle manufacturing unit approved the installation of a semi-automatic bottle capping machine, which is planned to deliver 30% productivity by reducing manual intervention in the assembly line. Okay, so note that this bottle capping machine, which is semi-automatic and that is not fully automatic, is planning to reduce manual intervention. Okay, it is not planning to eliminate it totally. Okay, so for example, in the end of line, if you are having like let's say 10 employees working at the moment, after this semi-automatic machine is installed, you might have only 7 employees at the end of line, and that would give you a 30% productivity in the overall assembly line. Okay, so that's the basic premise that this scenario is telling. However, the final product was found to be unacceptable since the manual intervention to keep the machine operating at the required efficiency was found to be significantly high. Okay, so what it's saying is when the machine was installed, it was found that the machine was so unreliable, okay, or the efficiency of the machine was so less, you were not able to remove 3 employees from the 10 employees who were working initially at your end of line bottle packing. Okay, so basically the performance level of the machine was bad and you were not able to achieve this 30% productivity. Okay, now the question is, what should the project manager do to avoid such issues in the future? Okay, so it's asking about what systemic fix the project manager should do so that these kind of situations doesn't happen in future projects. Note that the question is not asking you that what the project manager should do now to salvage the situation. Okay, the question is not asking that, and hence it's very important for you to read the question stem properly. The question is asking what should the project manager do to avoid such issues in the future. Okay, and there are 4 options provided, so let's go one by one. Option A, let the end user define project requirements. Okay, you can hold this option and you can say that okay, if the end user is defining project requirements, will my productivity and will my machine perform more efficiently? Questionable, but let's hold this option for now. Option B, ensure all plan releases includes necessary safety checks. Incorrect. So this is irrelevant, right? We are not talking anything about safety checks. It would still have made sense if it would have talked about reliability checks, okay, or checks in terms of performance standards. So again, that is incorrect. Option C, create a simulation model to test and validate project benefits. Again, that is incorrect. Okay, now you can create a simulation model to test and validate project benefits. So for example, the model can say that okay, look, if the machine performs at 85% process reliability, you can gain 30% productivity. Okay, if it performs at 70% process reliability, you can gain let's say 25% productivity, and it can give you all those scenarios. Okay, so simulations can give you a lot of scenarios to validate your project benefits, no doubt about that. But will it be able to solve this unacceptable instance of manual intervention that has come because the machine itself is not performing at the design reliability, right? Probably not, and that is why option C is also incorrect. Option D, plan for end users to test prototypes and incremental releases in their production environment. Okay, so it's asking that you need to plan for the end users who are let's say the employees who are working with this bottle capping machine at the end of line, and plan some test prototypes with them and do incremental releases in the production environment. Okay, and that way what you are doing basically is with this prototypes you are first testing the concept. Okay, you are doing something called as a proof of concept or proof of principle initially, and based on the success and the reliability of the prototypes, you are incrementally adding changes in your semi-automatic bottle capping machine. Okay, so that is why this option looks quite reasonable to me. Okay, and this looks like the correct option. Okay, so let's hold this for now and let's go back to option A. Let the end user define project requirements. Okay, now you are saying that okay, let the 10 employees who are working with the bottle capping machine at the end of line, let them define the project requirements. Now that's quite broad, right? How will they know what will be the required efficiency? How will they know what will be the cost and the payback period of the machine? How will they know what will be the safety standards of the machine? Okay, they might be company employees, they might be contractors, you don't know, right? So that is why option A is very broad, and that is why this is not a correct option. And the correct answer to this question is option D, which is planning the end users to test the prototypes, which are like the miniature models, or which are like let's say very simplistic model of the basic operation with which the bottle capping machine will be working. So once the prototype is successful, you can slowly introduce that change within your manufacturing line and see the performance or the reliability of that, and slowly ramp it up to match your target standards. Okay, and this kind of a project life cycle is called a incremental life cycle, where you deliver a minimum product, which is called a minimum viable product at the very beginning of the project, and slowly you keep on increasing and adding features to it to deliver the incremental upgrades to the product to become the final product in the end, which is the full-fledged working semi-automatic bottle capping machine. Okay, so please go back to your PMBOK 7th edition and read more about incremental project management lifecycle. So the correct answer to this question is option D.
So that's the end of the quiz, guys. Let me know in the comments below how much you were able to score, okay? I'd be very interested to know that. Also, if you have scored less, please do not be demotivated, okay? You just need a bit more preparation. Please make sure that you do a thorough analysis of your mistakes so that you get to know about your gaps. Thank you for watching, and I will see you again next month with another session of PMP exam practice questions and answers.